We're with Barret Kropf, head coach of the Trinity Western Spartans, and Barret, we met a couple months ago in Humboldt when that tragedy struck. Here we are, new season, hockey rink. How are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting summer in terms of just trying to, knowing that we're moving forward with our program, but at the same time, we've got a lot of guys in our locker room this year that were directly and sort of indirectly involved in that incident, and so there's been a lot of thought and a lot of process in terms of how are we going to handle our upcoming season to make sure that they find strength and success, and so it's been a great off season because we won the championship last year, and so there were some things that we wanted to make sure we brought those culture pieces into this year, but at the same time we got this new dynamic, and whether we won the championship or not, you'd still have this sort of everyone's wondering about how do we handle bus ride, how do we talk about players that were lost, and how do we talk about lives that were impacted. And so it's just been I wouldn't say a physically demanding off season. It's just been more a mental health awareness and those kind of things that we're just really being very precautious of it and making sure we're addressing those areas.
And for yourself, I understand this summer there was even a trigger for you involving a bus.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I got away for a few days down to Seattle, and we went, and we've been always wanting to go to the Boeing factory, and so we went and watched the tour of the video on the big movie screen, and then right afterwards, you're with 100 other people, and they take you out the back doors of this theater afterwards to get on a bus to go to the factory. And I wasn't really, I knew that we were going to the factory, but I just thought we'd go out the back door and walk. And then, so as soon as the door opened, I smelled the diesel of the bus and saw the bus with the door open, and just had some flashback moments of, oh my goodness, I haven't been on a bus or near a bus since, that whole incident in April. And so I froze, I panicked, my guts turned inside out. My wife looked at me and she's like, what's going on? And I literally had frozen in my steps, and people were waiting behind me. So I had to really, I just took a few deep breaths, and my wife went on, and I just kind of followed on and was just kind of stubbornly working my way through it. But then as we sat, driving back over to the factory on this bus, I just had this whole set of raw emotions that I was dealing with. And so we talked about it, my wife and I, afterwards, and just said, like Nipawin, what they did last year after the accident when they went to play us then was they went for a bus ride to help them deal with that. And if I'm feeling this, then I'm sure that my players that were there, or my other players that weren't maybe directly connected to the incident, they're going to be going through the same thing. And so we talked to our local bus company that charters for us. They're called Charter Bus Lines, and went and talked through some of the stuff with them, and they said, you know what, we'll donate that time. You tell us when, we'll pick you up, we'll go on a little picnic or barbecue or whatever you want to do. And so we did that last week during training camp.
So you had the boys actually physically get into a bus,
treat it like a
feel
road trip.
Comfortable, address anything that needed to be addressed. How was that? How did that go over?
I didn't know how it was going to go over. We went for a bus ride, went down the highway, and then we stopped in Fort Langley and went right onto the riverside, and almost had a time of, like a memorial. We kind of read through the names and gave opportunity for each of the guys to that wanted to, that were impacted by it, players that either played for Darcy or like Logan's situation was sitting at the rink. And just had them talk about the legacy, what the players and coaching staff or other staff that were there, what kind of legacy did those people leave on their lives. And so it was really good for those players, myself, just to share some stories not related to the accident, because there's so much focus on the accident itself and what's the outcome of the drive, or how are the new players going to handle it, but it was more of what kind of legacy did Darcy leave in your life, and what kind of legacy did some of those other players that you played with, how, when you think back, what are some of those memories now, and how are you going to sort of take that legacy into your life. And so it was great for our whole lineup to be able to sit on the side of the river and hear our players, myself, speak into the legacy of the guys from Humboldt.
From Humboldt. Yeah. It's just, I guess, a new chapter and trying to like start that off in a positive way for the guys. And
and not, I don't ever want to help or push anyone to that next phase of the grieving process, but I think it was a really good moment for us to turn the page and say, okay, we've had a summer of grieving. We've had some, obviously everyone walked through the funerals, and there's still that maybe moments of anger or fear or whatever it was, but it was a good place for our guys just to say, you know what, those guys, they shouldn't be known for that bus accident. They should be known for the legacy prior to that. And so those are some of the key points we've touched on during our training camp, is what kind of legacy are you leaving? And you never know when your last breath is going to be your last one. And so we just keep talking about the legacy, not being a legend, but leaving a legacy. And so I think that we haven't really landed on a theme for this year, but maybe the underlying theme is just everyone leave a legacy.
You were very close to Darcy, the head coach. I know you were very hurt in those first few days. How are you doing now, as you think of that legacy, as you also turn that page?
It's tough, and there's so many people's lives that were impacted, and for me it's just knowing, every time I sort of think about it, it's like a new memory from Darcy pops up, like how he traveled with us one summer and did like ministry. We did hockey camps across Western Canada, and there he was just kind of bombing across the provinces with me in this white van, and we would stop in the middle of the Rocky Mountains and go for a swim in the river, and he would be telling jokes to the guys, and just always there's these fresh memories. And so I'm thinking, like, how many other lives were impacted in the same way by Darcy, right? And so in such a short window of his life, he impacted a tremendous amount of people. And so for me, it's just trying to find ways that, again, coming back to that legacy piece of what am I doing to leave my mark on other guys and other coaches, and even when you think back to some of the family stuff and things that Darcy's known for in terms of just caring for his kids and whatnot. And so my kids are all older, and we got one ready to graduate university, and my youngest just starting university, my middle son getting married. And so there's even some moments in there like, gee, like I probably could have done more or whatever else. And so it's kind of, even though they're older, I'm trying to find, okay, how do I keep dripping into their lives and leaving a legacy there? And we're soon to be almost this empty nester, and so even now, and as my wife and I enter this different stage in our life and our marriage, it's like, okay, where do we, how do we create some space, and how do we leave legacy within our marriage and to other couples around us? So it's just, it's not I think for myself, I've moved away from some of that grieving piece, and now it's remembering the good things and remembering, okay, this is what I really remember about Darcy, and trying to say, okay, is that something I can incorporate in my life?
It's a great place to be at to get out on this ice.
Yeah, for sure.
Get going for a new season.
It is. Yeah, we're just the smells of the locker room, and being here at our home arena, and it's just it's a fresh season for us.